Rationality and Religion, How to Understand the Place of Religion in Human Life and Human Culture. Now, I would say probably about a quarter or a third of my clients are religious. I do not promote religion in my therapy practice, and this video is not to promote religion, but rather to understand it. And I think it's important for therapists to understand different aspects of human life and human society and culture, this context in which human beings live. And that's the spirit in which I'm offering this video. Now, many people who see the world through a kind of scientific lens consider religion to be irrational. And so the first concept that I want to offer as a way to understand religion is this. Religion is not irrational, it is non-rational. In other words, religion was never intended to be rational. It is meant to serve a different purpose. One of the most interesting stories I ever read was written by an anthropologist who was visiting with a tribe. And one night he witnessed a ceremony in which the tribal leader told a story about what accounts for the stars in the sky at night. And the story went that some god would poke holes in the sky every night so that humans could have a connection to the divine, to eternity, right? The idea was that those stars were holes in the sky through which humans could connect with eternity, which was on the other side. So the anthropologist the next day approached the leader and said, hey, that was a very interesting ceremony. May I ask you a question? Yes. If the god pokes the holes in the sky every night, why are they always in the same position relative to one another? And the leader looked at him and was like, well, he said, those stars up in the sky don't actually move around. They're always in the same place, and they're there during the day. You just can't see them because the sun is out. In other words, and the anthropologist was shocked. In other words, the tribal leader understood this story he was telling as a story. In other words, is that meant to be taken literally? It would be a little bit like a child seeing Superman movie and then, asking, how does Superman actually get off the ground and fly? How does that work? I can't get off the ground. And the parent saying, well, it's a movie. That's not really meant to be taken literally. It's a story. So, the religion is never meant to be a way to literally understand the universe. That's the domain of philosophy and science. And in the same way that you would say physical fitness is non-rational, it's not irrational, it's just that the purpose in physical fitness is not the development of understanding, it's the development of the body. So you wouldn't look at a dumbbell or a barbell and say, that dumbbell is irrational. You say, well, that clearly doesn't apply. The dumbbell is a tool, the purpose of which is to develop the body. A myth is a tool, the purpose of which is to develop human consciousness, not on the cognitive level, but on the spiritual level. And spiritual comes from spiritus, which means breath. Breath. The breath is a very interesting phenomenon because it can be governed consciously or unconsciously, right? You can consciously direct your breath, or, as is probably the case most of the time, it will go unconsciously. When you're sleeping, you're not consciously directing your breath. It's the unconscious does it. And probably most of the time during the day, you breathe unconsciously. So the breath is very interesting in that it can be directed by the conscious or the unconscious mind. Now, the ultimate goal in spirituality, we could say, is something like harmony or connection and harmony. Connection and harmony being the goals, and the processes as religion, the basic ones, essential, are meditation and prayer, which develop attention and intention, you see? And the myths are like tools. It's kind of like metaphors. They're symbolic of spiritual realities. And that's why religion is a realm of symbol and myth and metaphor. You see that not only in the myths, but in the symbols of religion. For example, the yin yang symbol is a beautiful one in my mind. But very similarly, you have the integration of the vertical and the horizontal, the spiritual and the material. You have the integration of the spiritual, an up arrow, and the material, a down arrow. That's the Jewish symbol, the so-called Star of David. And then in religious ritual, there's all sorts of symbolism involved. Religious rituals can be seen as kind of mystery dramas, like the Eucharist can be seen as a sort of mystery drama. And I hope this video is helpful to you in terms of understanding religion.